I'm not counting that other guy, bro. He was not good at the game.
Right. So most people aren't either right now.
All right, look.
Yeah, but he was like especially like not there.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Look, anyone can play a league, you know, right? Are we playing a league or TFT? Is there a difference, by the way?
Playing league.
Okay, I don't know anything
Anybody
about
can play Yu-Gi-Oh! I summon blue eyes.
Yeah, it's easy. Hey, look, wait, anyone can play a league. You just play Yasuo, right? That's what we're doing today, right, Carl?
We're playing Yasuo.
Yeah.
We're playing Yasuo.
Oh, I was right.
So
Is this the expensive one?
this is the alternate art one. It's not actually that expensive because he's widely accepted as one of the worst like 3 leaders in the game.
Okay.
But I like him. I main Yasuo in League, so I had to play him.
Yeah.
Essentially, what he says is you can tap him and then pay 2 of the runes, and you can move a unit to a battlefield or from a battlefield back to base, or if you have a ganking battlefield to the other battlefield.
Right.
So the way I built him, it's really to beat a lot of the Aurora decks. It's to try and beat Kais a little bit more handedly. So I'm more focused on the earlier drops. First, the partner champion that I have with the Yasuo, I chose the Calm Yasuo. What it says is when it attacks, it'll deal its damage or deal its attack damage to a character on the battlefield. This is just the best one, I think. The other one is untested. I'm thinking of running both of them and then seeing which matchups it's bested, and then just choose when you flip over to leaders. But theory unproven so far, so we're just sticking with a kind of generic, good overall build. So those are our 2 Yasuos. Like I mentioned, we are on a lot of early game units, so we're playing 3 of the 2-drop Stalwart Poro, 3 of the 2-drops Traveling Merchants, and 2 of the Clockwork Keeper. Honestly, the effect on this will never really come up, but I play it because it's a 2-drop, and you really want to open a 2-drop in your opening hands. This is these 2 are like the premier 2-drops because this lets you filter your hand for each matchup, because if you're not filtering your hand for each matchup, you can fall behind really easily. And this one has just good overall stats when it's holding a base. Since you want to play it out early, usually it can beat out a lot of the 3 cost or sometimes even a 4 cost unit.
Right.
Alongside these early game drops, I'm also playing 2 Wielder Water. Essentially, since this deck kind of moves units alone and they're kind of just traveling back and forth by themselves, this is always a 4 might card. In this deck, honestly, hindsight's 50-50. I would play 3 of these moving forward, like maybe move it like this. But this is what I've just been testing on, and it's been working. And then before we get into champions, the Adaptatron is another one that I'm playing. That's just because for the Aurora decks, you really want to make sure that they don't keep Aurora for multiple turns, because even after you're behind after the first tick of the Aurora card, and you don't want them to keep it too often. So in the late game, you are able to just play this out and then use Yasuo to move it onto an empty field, conquer, and then destroy the Aurora. So good little thing you can do there. And then our last non-champion is Tasty Faithful. This deck desperately needs many ways to reclaim when you're behind.
Okay.
So this is one of the cards that have rush, so you can definitely catch it off guard. But also it has a death ability, so even if you trade with a better card, you still get back the rune that you use to accelerate, and then plus another one, and you get to replace it because it draws 1. So really good cards here. A lot of the non-champion cards are just generic good cards right now. We are in set 1. You're not really expecting much more than that. But a lot of the champion cards are kind of more specialized. So I'm playing 2 Sona, and then I'm playing 2 Kayn and 1 Blitzcrank. The Kayn is just because I'm not testing the 2nd and 3rd Yasuo in the main decks right now. And these are just really good because Yasuo is super expensive. You have the Dawn -2 here. And this is just Dawn -1. So this is just essentially 2 more copies of this. Sona, this is a card you should generally always want to find on your 6 or 7 rune turn, because you play it out with one of the early drop units, and that's why the early drop units are so important to get extra points. But also, if you play the Sona out into the battlefield, you're ready for units. So with this color combination, you have a lot of interaction cards, and this helps you be able to play them at all times. So you're essentially just fighting with your opponent for control the entire game. Blitzcrank is here because on another point, if you're playing Sona to a battlefield where a unit's already at, you could also play a Blitzcrank and then drag over one of the pieces that you don't want sticking around too long. and then this will actually take the damage first. So whatever's on the battlefield with it will deal damage, but it won't take damage until this is assigned lethal damage. So really good. However, with how often you get to lose tempo because of Kai'Sa always killing your units, I might suggest just a third Sona if you can source a third Sona.
Right.
But yeah, those are the champions. Moving on to our interaction pieces. We're playing 3 on guard, 3 discipline. So these are our buffing spells. So like I mentioned earlier, a lot of our units are going to be alone on a battlefield. And since they're alone on a battlefield, you really got to make sure that you're protecting them or you're keeping them alive. So you play these cards in order to trade up with higher cost units and not lose control of the board tempo. Also, this one's nice because it draws when it replaces itself. But this one is just like, it's very above rate because it gives you 2 power for the 1 cost. Also playing Triple Defy. With, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of Kai'Sas running around right now. People are meta sheeping a lot. So I'm playing the counter spell in order to keep a lot of my early cost units alive. Granted, it only counters the 4 costs or less, so the bigger stuff like Time Warp, Aurora, you really can't main deck the main counter spell Wind Wall, because if you miss and you're like into a deck that only plays like the weenie spells, it's just such a bad card. But you can put it in your side deck because this game does have a side deck, so you can play around it a little better. But I'm comfortable maining the Defies because worst case scenario, you play against another deck that has interaction spells, you just counter the fuck out of it. Alright, and then I'm also playing Charm, 2 Gus, 2 Ride the Wind, 2 Fighter Flights. So like I mentioned, there's a lot of interaction spells. Gus is just to keep early control. A lot of early game units that you don't want to touch or like don't want to trade into, or even some of the Noxian units that have Assault that have low base power until they start attacking. If you are able to kind of catch them before like they give a Noxian Guillotine to a low attack unit, you can bounce the card back, or you can bounce your own low drops back so you can save it. But usually if you're bouncing your own stuff back, it's kind of negative. So you're wanting to bounce your opponent's early units. Charm, good game ender. You can move a unit that you want to kill to another battlefield. You can move it off of the battlefield so you can conquer easier. Sky's the limit with this card. One of the nicer things to do is if you have complete control of the boards, you can move a unit over to a battlefield and then swing your Yasuo at that battlefield, effectively killing it and conquering it at the same time. So that's nice. Ride the Wind, you move one of your units and then it readies it. So really, really late game, what you are able to do with either Yasuo or Kayn is if you play them that turn, you ride the wind to move one of them onto a battlefield to do combat. It refreshes the amount of damage taken on them. And then since they're ready, you can move them back and then use the Yasuo to move them to the other battlefield. Or if you have the ganking battlefield out, just go straight to the other battlefield. Yasuo would do damage to whatever's on the battlefield. Usually he's going to win that fight. And Kayn just doesn't take any damage the second time he moves. So it's just really advantageous for you. However, you don't want to draw too many of these because you need to have a unit already established on the board, namely one of the stronger units for it to be really effective. On the other side, while this one gets your friendly units, this gets a unit from the battlefield back to the base. So it does have hidden, it has action. So if you're losing a fight and you don't really want to deal with the really big unit that they just put out, or like the 12-12 Volley Bear, just move it back to the base.
Okay.
Just ignore it.
Okay.
Something similar to the hidden mechanic is we're also playing Dazonia's Hourglass. This is essentially just a protection spell for any of the big units that you got because you don't want to be put too far behind. And just like I mentioned, these are all hidden. So if you keep control of a battlefield, if you're holding it with a Sona, if you're like have a battlefield that you really don't want to let go of, you just hide one of these on the battlefield with a Sona, and it's another interaction spell that you don't have to pay mana for. So that's really good. And then the last couple cards are just what do you call it? There's advantage cards here. So I'm playing 2 Meditation, 2 Mask of Foresight. Mask of Foresight is just whenever you attack or defend alone, it gives your units +1. So it lets you trade up, lets you defend a little easier. When you mix it with the interaction spells, sometimes those numbers get really, really hard for people to deal with. And then Meditation. This is one of the few draw spells that we have So when you're holding a battlefield, like I mentioned, either with a Sona or early game unit, and they're readied, you can just go ahead and play this, tap that unit, and then you draw 2, replenishing your hand. Or something really sneaky you can do is if you've kept another unit alive and you move the Sona onto it, Sona will restand some additional mana, runes, whatever the fuck.
Okay.
And then on their turns, this has reaction. You play it when they try to interact, and then you hope to draw into any of the other removal spells or interaction spells that we have, kind of change the pace of the game there. But at worst, to draw 1, it's a filter. At best, you're pot of greedy. That's really good. Moving on from the main deck, we do also have 2 other types of decks, of course. We have the battlefield deck. So I'm playing these 3. This one gives units that have here ganking, so you're able to move Yasuo between the battlefields. This says if you're moving from the battlefield, you give it +1. So again, since your units are moving alone, this is mostly for the Yasuo or the Kayn. You move it from here back to base and then use the Yasuo to move it to another battlefield with that +1. If you have the mask out, it's +2. You're probably winning that fight. And lastly, the Dreaming Tree. As long as you are playing against a deck that isn't like similar to what you're doing, where they're perma-buffing your own units and like interacting with your own units, this is essentially a one-sided like draw engine. Because it only triggers if you target your own units, not if you're trying to get rid of the opponent's units.
Right.
So it's just really good for us because we're buffing our own units a lot. I think these are currently the best ones. I wouldn't really trade any of them for any other battlefields. I don't think there's anything close, really, just because of how hypermobile this deck is. And then lastly, Rune deck. Right now I'm playing a clean split. 6 Chaos, 6 Calm. But honestly, with the mana pips that we have and the Yasuo being 2 Calm runes, I'm leaning towards going 7 to 5, 7 Calm, 5 Chaos. But honestly, I wouldn't care too much about it. Unless you're like really try hard about it.
Okay, all right.
Or just get really unlucky all the time. Then yeah, you should put 7 Calm.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the deck profile.
All right. I don't have anything else to say. All right, look. They have not put fiddlesticks into this game yet, so I don't know. I'm not gonna learn this game until they put fiddlesticks in. All right, but
you're waiting a little bit.
Everybody loves fiddlesticks.
Yeah.
Look, it was an arcade. You know, look. They made this card game based on arcade.
Fiddlesticks in arcade.
I don't fucking know.
Oh, okay, just propaganda.
Look. I just know that show has a bear and some lesbians in it. All right, that's all I need to know. All right, that's deck profile. All right.
Yeah,
okay, thanks. Bye. Let's go home.
All right, let's go home.